Hello, dear friends. Robots could free humankind from heavy-duty work, but they could also enslave it, if not used correctly. The greater the technological power, the greater the ethical responsibility. Opinion piece. The robot revolution. China investigates brain warfare. Will humans reach Mars in less than 10 years? Space colonists could reach the point of cannibalism. Musk says his satellite can't block any Chinese spacecraft. Peruvian shamans cleanse international relations of negativity. Court case filed against Jerusalem for hiding Vatican tunnel. Let's start. China unveils new plan to spearhead robot revolution. Automation plans come amid growing technological rivalry with the US. China has unveiled its new plan for smart manufacturing. It intends to digitize the operations of 17% of its manufacturers by 2025. The initiative, jointly announced by several government agencies, aims to achieve at least 20% annual growth in robotic sales. It also wants to establish a pool of industry champions to double the country's robot density. A separate plan on the robot industry says China's overall robotics capabilities will be among the best in the world by 2035, when robots will become an important part of the country's economy development, daily life, and social governance. Many large companies, such as Intel, Sony, General Motors, and Dell, have implemented robotic units on their production lines to perform tasks that would usually have been performed by flesh and blood workers in earlier times. This has led to a streamlining of processes, as well as greater savings in resources, by having machines that can perform the functions of a certain number of employees at a relatively lower cost and with a higher degree of efficiency. This has significantly improved the overall performance and profits of the company, as well as the quality of the products offered. But on the other hand, it has raised and maintained concerns among various groups because of its impact on the rate of available jobs, as well as its direct impact on displaced persons. Definition. A robot is a programmable electronic machine or device that is capable of manipulating objects and performing various operations. In practice, this is usually an electromechanical system that by this appearance or its movements gives the impression of having a purpose of its own. The independence created in its movements makes its actions the reason for a reasonable and deep study in the area of science and technology. Currently, a robot could be considered a computer with the ability and purpose of movement that in general is able to develop multiple tasks in a flexible way according to its programming, so it could be differentiated from some specific household appliance. Domestic robots for household cleaning and maintenance are becoming increasingly common. However, there is some anxiety about the economic impact of automation and the threat of robotic weaponry, an anxiety that is reflected in the open, perverse, and evil portrayal of robots in works of popular culture. Compared to their fictional counterparts, real robots remain limited. There is consent that robots could displace or compete with humans. The laws or rules that could or should be applied to robots or other autonomous entities in cooperation and competition with humans, if technology sufficient to make them intelligent and self-aware is ever achieved, have stimulated macroeconomic investigation of this type of competition. Brain war. China is engaged in brain warfare research. China's new military strategy is not to destroy, but to paralyze and control the enemy. For the past several years, a research institute in China has been busy developing weapons that could paralyze enemies instead of killing them, US media reports claim. The Washington Times translated and analyzed 3 2019 reports from the People's Liberation Army, which had been published in the official PLA daily military newspaper. The newspaper says these documents, in quotes, shed light on the depth of China's brain warfare investigation and show that it has been ongoing for several years. The war has begun to shift from the pursuit of destroying bodies to paralyzing and controlling the opponent, reads one of the daily reports, called The Future of the Concept of Military Supremacy. According to the Washington Times, Chinese researchers have been studying the integration of human and machines in order to create enhanced human cognitive and physiological capabilities, as well as working on defending the brain against brain control attacks. Black magic. As the dark side unravels and the clique leaders capeth due to growing public resistance to their political agenda and the intervention of an alliance of positive outside groups working with the white hats of different space-faring nations, it has been claimed that the magical labels and codes used to subjugate humankind are being handed over. Exopolitics Today has interviewed Brad Olsen, author and publisher of several books dealing with black magic, the wealth control system, and extraterrestrial life. Dr. Michael Sala interviews Brad on how spells have been integral components of the wealth control system created millennia ago to subvert humankind and for the past 50 years has prevented the emergence of a Star Trek-type utopian future. Astronautics. Musk says his tiny satellites can't block any Chinese spacecraft. Elon Musk has responded to multiple claims that his company Starlink satellites take up too much space in Earth orbit, claiming that tens of billions of spacecraft could fit in near-Earth orbits. The allegations come amid the Chinese complaint filed at the United Nations in December, which describes how in October and July 2 Starlink satellites caused the Chinese space station to adopt preemptive collision avoidance control procedures to ensure the safety and lives of astronauts in orbit. Will humans reach Mars in less than 10 years? This is Elon Musk's plan. Although he initially said his mission to get men to the red planet would be accomplished in 5 years, entrepreneur Elon Musk now gives a more realistic stance. SpaceX remains firm in its goal of colonizing Mars. However, this time he didn't say that humans will arrive in 5 or 6 years, as he had said months earlier. Space colonists could resort to cannibalism. The first generations to occupy outposts in space could be left with few nutritional options, scholars believe. 2 scientists have suggested there is a very real possibility that early space colonists resorted to cannibalism, noting that crop failures and lack of supplies could leave colonists with very few options. Reset News. Court case filed against Jerusalem for concealing illegal Vatican tunnel of Messiah. The Regavim movement filed a petition against the Jerusalem municipality on Tuesday, demanding enforcement against an illegal subway tunnel dug by the Church of the Dormition of Mary on Mount Zion, in the heart of Jerusalem's Old City. The area is full of historical and archaeological artifacts that could be endangered by unsupervised excavations. The military tribunal has accused Jerusalem of hiding a 150-mile secret tunnel called the Tunnel of the Messiah that connects the city of Jerusalem to the Vatican. Our planet has been connected by subway tunnels for thousands of years. Cyber attacks. Second, the cyber attack shuts down the press at Norway's largest local news publisher. Third, Hong Kong news outlet Stand News shuts down after police raid. Staff of pro-democracy news website are charged with, in quotes, conspiracy to publish a seditious publication. Fourth, healthcare organizations report cyber attacks. CompuGroup Medical, a medical software provider, reported being hit by a ransomware attack that caused the company described as a technical glitch, while healthcare providers in West Virginia and Texas notified hundreds of thousands of people of data breaches. Fifth, cybercriminal steals $2 million. A cybercriminal managed to exploit a vulnerability in the Polygon cryptocurrency blockchain and steal more than 800,000 tokens worth $2 million. Global financial crisis. Sixth, JP Morgan says that 2022 will see full global recovery. U.S. investment bank JP Morgan predicted that 2022 will mark the end of the crisis and see a global economic recovery. Seventh, global economic output will exceed $100 billion for the first time in history next year, despite the lingering effects of the crisis, a new report from a UK-based consultancy shows. 8. Vulture funds will have to relearn how to fly. Vulture funds will have to stretch their wings. Corporate defaults are falling despite the surprising length of the crisis. 9. Highest unemployment in the world. The unemployment rate in the Hamas-ruled Gaza Strip, or Gaza, has exceeded 50% in 2021, with more than 250,000 Palestinians unemployed. 10. Children at risk of being recruited for war. A Save the Children report reveals that 337 million children are at risk of being recruited and used by armed forces or armed groups, 3 times more than 3 decades ago. 11. India's tech stock bubble is about to deflate. India's emerging startups are poised to discover their limits. Buyers of shares in the giant emerging market will increasingly give some control over skyrocketing valuations to money-losing digital companies. 12. China on the brink of collapse. China's housing prices are in freefall as China Evergrande Group defaults. and its shares are down 90%. Evergrande is integrated into China's entire financial system. 13. China issued notices to stop production by TM. China's controlled demolition is now in full force. Is there any logical reason for an economy that has been collapsing for years due to supply line problems for all heavy industries to shut down between the dates of January 1st to March 15th, 2020 to hold the failed Olympics? Maybe world peace is on the menu. Supply crisis. 14. Western Australia. Farmers and truckers stopped when the food supply collapsed. Just as no eyes are prevented from accessing farmers' markets and grocery stores, they are also prevented from selling their grain to farmers. 15. Kosovo. The energy crisis in Kosovo intensifies as residents switch on home generators for electricity. In the capital, Pristina, homes are being kept warm and lit by generators amid the worst energy crisis in a decade. 16. Supply bottlenecks until the end of 2022. The semiconductor industry's struggle to keep up with incoming orders appears to continue as supply bottlenecks may last until the end of 2022. 17. Germany to switch off 3 of its last 6 nuclear plants. Germany will switch off 3 of its last 6 nuclear power plants today, Friday, another step in completing its nuclear phase out as it turns its attention to renewables. Americas. Peruvian shamans cleanse international relationships of negativity. Several shamans in Peru have performed the traditional year-end ritual on the San Cristobal Hill in Lima, making predictions for 2022 and even attempting to cleanse negativity in international relationships through a ceremony with portraits of Vladimir Putin, Joe Biden, and Ukraine's Zelensky. In addition to conjuring health, luck, and happiness for the coming year, the shamans smoke and put their concoctions on photos on the 3 presidents to seek supernatural input to ease tension on the Ukrainian border. Brazil rejects Argentina's humanitarian aid for victims of heavy rains. The government of Jair Bolsonaro rejected the humanitarian aid offered by Argentina to the victims of the heavy rains that hit the Brazilian state of Bahia and have already left 24 dead, 434 injured, and more than 53,900 people homeless. Mexico wants digital currency by 2024. The Bank of Mexico will put into circulation its own digital currency by 2024, considering that the new technologies and state-of-the-art payment infrastructure are needed for the country's development. Central banks' digital currencies, in quotes, are the same fiat scam in a shiny new package. Kaiser report. Nick Giambruno believes that these currencies are, in quotes, are the same fiat scam in a shiny new package. He believes they will only serve to make inflation more feasible and to accelerate money printing. They get a lot of hype about these things, which are actually scary. They can track and control everything we do, what we spend and save, etc. They can freeze our money, limit it, or say it's go overnight, he opines. Predictions. The Atlantis report. Are you ready for economic collapse? The economy needs a restart, and the sooner the restart happens, the sooner we can dispense with all the distortion that has turned our economy into a speculative casino that only benefits a few insiders and those who know how to manipulate the game in their favor. Most people are ill-equipped for recession. The secret to getting through a recession is to be debt-free. What do we know by Thomas Anderson? Every person has three lives: a public life, a private life, and a secret life. It seems that the secret life of a few is about to conquer the rest of everyone else's life behind the catching. Many people have no idea what is going on and are foolish, harmless, and unconcerned sheep of the flock. Only a few are able to look behind the curtain, and what they discover alarms them. If you realize what is happening, then you have survived the greatest psychological campaign in human history. 2022 will be the year of love by Sitara. As we move into 2022, we feel the incoming energies. We will rediscover the book of love, which was the basis of the cattle lifestyle that was taught by Mary Magdalene, the Divine Feminine Avatar. We will receive the crown of light given to those who open their hearts and align with their galactic and angelic heritage to claim their place on the new earth. I have no doubt that 2022 will be chaotic, and many of the issues of 2021 will continue to unfold at the lower levels of consciousness. But if you choose to stay in your heart and embrace love rather than fear, you will find a magical doorway to higher consciousness. Indeed, it is the year to live in grace and simplicity, discovering a new way of living and being. It really is time to come home. We are God Seeking God by Steve Biko. If the purpose of life is for God to meet God in a moment of enlightenment, then that formulation alone means that right now, in this moment, God is seeking God to make that destined meeting possible. When I seek God, God seeks God. We are all God seeking God. Whenever I say that, I get a resounding response from within. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.